So my name is Catherine Stevens, and I'm based out of the School of Education. I'm part of a group that provides media and ed resources and library services and IT and graphics and video. And my role in that group is around instructional design. And I offer consulting to faculty and staff around a variety of projects. And I've been with the group for about 14 years. So over that time, I've been involved with many, many different projects across campus that are connected to innovation and in support of teaching and learning. Let's see. So one of the things that's a part of this introduction that I was asked to speak about is on this topic of makerspaces and what we're going to dive into today, what I tried and what worked and what I might do differently, right? So I'm just going to spend a short, like 5 minutes on that. So this work that I'm sharing with you today is work that I've been studying over the past about year and a half. I had support from an academic staff professional development grant to take a workshop, much of what you're going to see today, out to the New Media Consortium Conference last summer in Portland, Oregon. So I spent about a year researching Madison Makerspaces. I interviewed faculty on this campus teaching in makerspaces or hoping to teach in makerspaces or designing their research around the idea of makerspaces. I also went out into the community and I interviewed Trent Miller at the Bubbler. I went out to a high school. As a part of today, I have 2 short videos that I hope I will have time to show you that captures those visits. And so the research was showing and telling me that this is a very interdisciplinary topic, that makerspaces are emerging as a place where you find creativity and interest level learning, lots of constructivism happening, lots of active learning happening. Let's see, and technology. So certainly in makerspaces you're going to find things like 3D printers and CAD software and geeky things, lots of geeky electronics. If you've ever been out to Sector 67 here in Madison and see some of the really pretty incredible technology that they have there. So I've really appreciated the work. The conference in Portland, Oregon, they do pronounce it Oregon, not Oregon, but I had probably about 50 people there, and we did a nice session. They were really jazzed up about what I was sharing with them about what's happening in Madison and the surrounding community. As a part of the session, I offered a maker activity, where we worked with stop motion animation on an iPad, and I invited a few people up to the room. We did a quick little story scenario. I had these little characters. I think I had a chicken and a penguin and some other little thing, I don't remember what it was. And they created a story with these characters, and we filmed it using stop motion animation, and we played it back. It's a pretty common approach to making things that a lot of people are using, including some of our faculty. I mean, in a nutshell, that's kind of what they're doing. The idea that I'd like to try with you today under what I would do differently is that the maker activity that I'm going to invite you to do has no technology as a part of it at all. It's just based on tools and what you're going to bring to it with your intellect and your experiences and your hands and what you can build. So what I'm curious about with this, what I'm going to do differently this time, is the reflection that we'll have after we do the activity, and what you noticed and what took place around making and building something together as a group. So that's what I'm doing differently. I'm doing a maker activity with no technology at all. It's just going to ask you to bring what you can bring to it. Any questions? That's about what I need to tell you about this first part. And I have just a few slides, and then we're going to do an activity and have a reflection. I have a couple of videos, and keep this informal. I know that several of you, John, you've done a lot of work with Makerspaces, so feel free to contribute what you know and what you can add to what I'm bringing to you.
Are these the pieces that we're using?
Yes, and I'm going to tell you.
This is the most popular technology probably in Western education.
And would you consider it a tool?
I would consider all technologies are tools.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. As in the paperclip, another thing.
Right.
Cool. I know you're all very eager to do the making. It's coming very soon. So.
Hands down, Joe.
That's right.
So what is this about? This is Apollo, the famous moonshot from the late 1980s. And what I'm asking you to think about here is the idea of making things from the perspective of, from a slightly different perspective, and think about makerspaces from a slightly different perspective. And the idea that I'm going to pose is that makerspaces are not really anything terribly new. We've been building things and making things for a really, really long time. And we've been using tools to do really innovative things, to make things that we use in our daily lives for a really long time. Some of us, like I have a birthday coming up. I don't even want to tell you how old I'm going to be. But, you know, I had home ec in high school, and some of us grew up with popular mechanics. Any of you that may have grown up on a farm may have made things out of like really sort of not very fancy schmancy tools, but you did things with your hands and your intellect. So anyway, so then as we think about this idea of the make movement and how we define makerspaces and what about them is relevant to teaching and learning, is something that I hope will thread all the way through this with your contributions as well. The origins of the idea of the make movement, how did it begin? It's a do-it-yourself culture. It comes out of learning, skills, invention, creativity, and design-based thinking. What also started to emerge when I did this research last year was that we have some real challenges taking place right now in our art programs, in our art curriculum, in our K through 12 schools, in the notion perhaps of creativity in the classroom. And what I'm kind of noticing is the place for makerspaces in that whole conversation, that there is a place for people to go and invent and be messy and learn from each other. And some of it is something a little bit different than what's happening in our standards-based curriculum in the K through 12 schools. Collaborative workspaces, tinkering around, and teaching each other. Okay, I want to keep sort of moving. So this again, this is more about where all this comes from. This is the Make magazine that came out, I believe, in about 1980 something, and it's still coming out. It's a very commonly referred to. I'll pass this around if any of you have not seen it. And let's see. So Madison, there's lots that seems to be happening in the city of Madison around community-based, participatory-based engagement and learning, and at least the invitation to come out and have a role with what's being developed. The hope is, anyway, I mean, for example, our current Mayor Soglin, he's had quite a bit to say about place-based architecture and the idea of place, and he's invited neighborhoods to be involved with creating place-based spaces. So what is this about? This is just about Madison and the invitation to be part of something and to be engaged with it. And the Bubbler, how many of you have been to the Bubbler? Oh, you need to go visit the Bubbler. John, you've been to the Bubbler.
I've not for any sessions, but I poked in the window.
Okay, well, okay. So the bubbler is about 2 years old. It started from a national, hang on, let me, National Endowment for the Arts grant, and it comes out of the public library. It's a space near the front of the new public library downtown, where visiting artists arrive and spend time at the bubbler. And if you pull up the Bubbler website, there's a calendar of events where community members, any community member is invited to come in and make art and take part in these community activities that are taking place. The other thing going on at the public library that's really connected with the Bubbler is the Media Lab. This is an open technology lab, open and free to any community member, no cost for going there. They sponsor classes that are volunteer run in things like music and podcasting and web development and Adobe products and music production, sound mixing, all kinds of really cool stuff. So other Makerspaces, Sector 67 on the Near East Side, as well as a new space that it has emerged called the Bodgery. Any of these are open for you to drop in and go check them out. These are makerspaces, or I think that maybe we would call Sector 67 more of a hackerspace, where people are inventing things and building things, and in some cases patenting things. It's just really interesting what's coming out of these spaces. Yeah.
What would be the difference between hackerspace and makerspace?
Well, very good question. And I think, there's going to be some overlap.
Okay.
There's going to be some overlap.